Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Journey to Leadership. Before we get started, I wanted to thank our sponsors, P&G Ventures, Kroger, First Financial, North American Properties, Vora Ventures, Taft, and KMK. This would not be possible without them. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please continue to use the Q&A tool at the bottom of your screen to ask your questions. A recorded version of today's webinar will be provided. Please continue to fill out the survey that pops up at the end of this webinar. Thank you all so much for attending. I'm going to hand it off to Robert Jones to get us started. Oh, Robert, you're on mute.
There we go.
Good to go.
Oh boy. Hello everyone. This is Robert Jones. It's a pleasure and honor to be with you today. And, as Anna said, the topic is Journey to Leadership. What I thought I'd do today is kind of walk you through my career, my life, and journey, and also spend some time with you sharing some of the great feedback and guidance and input I've been giving and advice from a mentoring standpoint throughout my career, and a few lessons learned that you will find this interesting for you as you pursue your dreams in life and career. So I've been with GE for 30 years in human resources. So I graduated undergrad, you can see there, with a bachelor's of science and then a master's from Western University. And I've worked across 3 different industries and businesses in my 30-year GE career. I just achieved 30 years in March of this year. It's just amazing. You say, where did all the time go and how fast it goes? And so I just instill that it's the importance of having a vision and working towards that vision in your life and living your dreams. So I worked in our plastics division. Well, I first started off working in another company briefly in North Carolina early in my career. And then that company kind of got sold or went private. And so then I started my career with GE very early and worked in our plastics division in GE for, I don't know, it looks like 6 years, 6.5 years. And then after 6.5 years, I got promoted to executive level, beginning of my 7th year, which is unbelievable. Back then, the average time to get to executive was 14 years. I got there at 6.5 years. And then I went to GE Capital and I worked in that business for, wow, almost 14 years or so, something like that, 14, 15 years. And, where I was the HR leader for a P&L that we grew from $32 million of income to over $1 billion of income. And I was the HR leader for that business, a lot of mergers and acquisitions, high growth business. Was really a great run. And then I joined GE-Aviation. I was promoted to senior executive about 10 years ago. And I'm the HR leader for our engineering organization at GE-Aviation, which is headquartered here in Cincinnati for many years. Just celebrated over 100 years. And, we have about 59,000 employees all over the world. And from an engineering standpoint, we have about 10,000 engineers in 11 countries. And so they are the folks who do all of the design on the engines that many of you probably been on. Just a great team all over the world. So that's a little bit about my career. And so right now I'm going to give you a little quick video to get a snapshot of GE-Aviation, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it.
In 2019, our journey was guided by the passion of our people and the strength of our purpose. Drawing on the resilience of the team, we faced new challenges and unique opportunities, reaffirming that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. From revolutionary innovations to state-of-the-art technologies, with a highly dedicated workforce, GE Aviation continues to lead the aerospace industry with 100 years of hard work and expertise, led by some of the brightest minds and greatest technologies. With more than 50,000 global employees in more than 50 countries, we remain poised to transform the industry and innovate for the future. launch into a new decade, our next century, and a new era of travel. We will proudly continue to invent the future of flight, lift people up, and bring them home safely.
As you can see, like I said, this is an exciting business right here in your backyard. Any of your, you should keep this on your radar as you pursue your careers in the future, particularly if you're going to be in engineering or in other parts of other functions as well. So 2019 was a great year. 2020 has been a wake-up call for the whole world. I mean, the aviation industry, because of COVID-19, has been decimated. I mean, people, are not flying, and understandably so, because of, the continued spread of COVID-19. So our industry has been hit hard this year. And you probably heard some of the stories read some of the stories where we've had to do lots of restructuring, very tough things, because just significant revenue drop. That was the best year ever, 32.9, almost $33 billion in revenue. With plans to grow even more than that in 2020, but now it's going to be a big regression because of COVID-19 and its impact on the global aviation industry. But we still have a very, very strong business. These are just the different business segments, with the two biggest in our commercial business, which is with all the airlines you may know of, Delta, United, American, what have you. And then military, we are a big partner with our US military, and we'll share a little bit about that. But this is GE-Aviation is the largest or the most profitable aerospace company in the world. And it's here headquartered in Cincinnati, but definitely a global business, as you saw, in over 50 countries. So when you look at it, if you look at the number of engines, when you think about planes flying and taking off every day, says every 1.2 seconds, an aircraft with GE engine technology is taken off somewhere in the world. Every 1.2 seconds. That's in a normal environment. Probably in COVID-19, that's probably not the case. We have over 37,000 engines in the fleet, meaning in the market, with the different airlines around the world. It's just amazing when you think about that magnitude of our presence or impact in the commercial engines world right here in Cincinnati. It's just an amazing team of talented people who are very committed and dedicated to this industry and have such a tremendous passion for this technology and just the aerospace industry in itself. We feel strongly it's going to come back, and hopefully a vaccine for COVID-19 and people more comfortable, because the aviation industry is vital and crucial to the international landscape of business. And so we just think it's going to be important and vital part of our global economy going forward. When you look at the military side of it, it's just amazing. You can look at some of the same stats. We have 27,000 engines that support the world's military fleets around the world. If you look at this, 2/3 of the fighters in the U.S. fleet are powered by aviation. You can look at the helicopters or the bombers. So we have a strong partnership with the Pentagon and our U.S. government in making sure our military is fully equipped with the greatest and the best technology to protect our homeland. So it's pretty fascinating that in my role, I get to play on the commercial side, but also get to play on our military side, and not only just in the U.S., but also globally, which I'll share with you in a few. So if you talk about the engineering organization, just very quickly share with you some stats here. Here's our engineering footprint. It says 6,500, but then there's another 300 or dotted line into it. It's 3,000, I'm sorry, which gets us about 10,000. They're in different parts. But you can see where we have engineers all over the world. And I've been to every one of these places multiple times. And I still have to, in COVID, we're all doing a lot of remote work, as you can probably see here, if you can see, that I'm working from home and have been probably for the last 3, 4, 5 months because of COVID. But I still plug in to all of these sites on a very consistent basis. Just had a all hands update with our team in China last night at 9 p.m. Because they're on a totally different timing than we are. And so we like to do it on their time, their morning, my night versus our mornings and their night. So we did that last night from 9 to 10. It comes with the territory. So this is kind of the landscape of what I'm responsible from a human resources leadership standpoint. And then when you think about some often ask, what does human resources do? Human resources is a very critical part of the organization. I mean, at the end of the day, we like to say it's all about people. It's about having the right people with the right skills and the right jobs at the right time that gives you competitive advantage. New technologies, new product, new marketing strategies, new business development strategy, sales winning big accounts and big campaigns, et cetera, is all about having people with the right talent. And so human resources plays a vital role in making sure you're orchestrating all of that in an efficient, effective way around human capital, right? It's all about people. And so here's just a kind of a high level, I won't get through each of these, that we get involved in, from leadership development and making sure we got the best leaders on the field, that we have strategic workforce planning, that we have the right people at the right time, talent acquisition. One particular time we had to hire 4,000 engineers around the world to support all of the new products you see over there to the right. And then we got to make sure our people have the right capability, the right skills. So we're doing lots of things you see there in the middle around knowledge transfer, functional maturity models, and those kind of things to make sure people have the right skills. And then we're doing succession planning because a lot of people are retiring from time to time. We've had over a couple thousand people that retire in the last 2 years. So we had to proactively get ahead of that to make sure we don't, it doesn't hurt the business, because we don't have the succession plans in place when we lose critical talent or we're not doing a knowledge transfer well in advance. And then from a culture standpoint, that we're providing career opportunities and career development for our people, and we're focused on diversity, and we're focused on evolving our culture. So this is kind of in a nutshell, and this is fluid. It's always changing based on what's happening in the business, that HR has a big responsibility for. And so, for example, here's just a very simple, I'm going to go through this very quickly. This is a toolkit that I developed in the business about, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. We were working on we were going to have 20,000 new engines in the field. My president and CEO said, Robert, we got to get ready for that. Maybe we should bring in a consultant to help us with this. This is critical. And I said, well, let me take a stab at this. I'll put a team together. I'll work very hard on it and see if we can come up with something ourselves. So we had to get ready for that. And so at the top, we built what you call services engineering org. And I called it Organization Capability and Readiness Toolkit. And so at the end of the day, what this is the business has a strategy, but the business strategy without organization and talent strategy is not going to be enough. So how do you develop that, or how do you translate that business strategy into an organization and talent strategy? And as you all evolve in your careers and your life, and you move into leadership roles, I hope these are some thoughts you never forget, regardless if you're in finance, you're in engineering, you're in marketing, you're in business development. It's all going to be about people. It's going to all be about the things I'm talking about today, whether you will be successful or not. And so hopefully these are things that will plant a seed with you forever. So I had to come up with this around how do you translate a business strategy and org and talent strategy. And so not to go through, it looks like something like this. It's a big strategic planning framework with the 6 different quadrants going. It's more what we call systems thinking. So you can do this with rigor and and deep thought and integrated thought. And so we developed this. We're able to build this new organization and launch it like 5 years before we had to, so we can work out the kinks. And right now, the business couldn't really imagine doing without this organization, because it's so critical to servicing our fleet and working with our customers in the field. Just something that HR gets involved in. But hopefully these will plant seeds as you go on to college and you take classes. And then as you finish college, you go into your careers. It's all about people and having a good human capital strategy. And so I just share with you, yes, some of my global leadership responsibilities. I like to say is travels beyond imagination, from my upbringing to the things I get to do and work with people all over the world. I think I'm in a vast majority of every one of these photos. As I said, I travel all over the world. I work with these teams. I have relationships with these teams. And, I help the team solve problems and develop strategies all over the world. It's just been an amazing, amazing journey for me when I look at this photo, from which my upbringing, which I'll share with you in a few minutes. And it's really been amazing. I look at the HR partnership for the last 23 years that I've had at the executive level and above, as I talk about. And it's been just an amazing journey. Since I've been in this job the last 10 years, our business has won 4 chairman awards with technology leadership. The 3 people to my right are 3 of the vice presidents of engineering that have been my clients over the last 10 years, my partnership. And very interesting, I look at these 3 characters. They're all strong leaders, very talented. It's been a great pleasure. The first 2 on my right, the gentleman and then the lady, have retired. And so I had to do succession planning for each of them. And so the tall gentleman all the way over to my right is the current vice president of engineering, great leader. We were on a call last night with China. And so he's probably going to retire in another year or so. And so we're working on his succession planning as we go now. So it's been an incredible journey. And so before I joined aviation, here's kind of been my big partner, and we're still the best friends today. Same as to the left, I'm still great friends with the folks over to the, over in the aviation world as well. And this gentleman who just retired a year ago, he was the president and CEO of the business I supported in GE Capital. And, if you look at just that time frame that I have here, we won these awards at the corporate level of based on business performance and growth, best turnaround after the financial crisis, and going through some significant challenges, back in 2008 and 9, as you remember. Just an amazing journey. We built that business from a $30 million to over $1 billion today. And now it's a part of the public company called Synchrony Financial. But just been an amazing, amazing journey of working with some incredible leaders, developing some amazing friendships, and really delivering for the company and delivering for our people. It's been an amazing journey. So now I want to pivot. That's kind of my career. Now I'm going to walk you through my story and my journey. I get asked this often to share this, and it's really a humbling beginning, and I'm going to walk you through it. Now you kind of see what I do, where I've been. Now I'm going to walk you through from which I've come. So my growing environment. So my grandfather played a very big role in my life and in my development. And, I really didn't meet my father. My parents divorced very early. And my grandfather was kind of that male figure in my life. And he was a coal miner. He worked in the coal mines of West Virginia for like 39 years, going under the ground there. Can't imagine doing that for 39 years. And, he used to come home with draped in coal dust at the end of the day with a big box of food from the company store. And me and my cousins would run to get to him first, and we'd clean his boots off, and he would give us, like 50 cents or something like that. It was a lot of money back then. And one day, I'll never forget, he looked at me and he said, "Son, promise me you'll go to college. You'll never work in these coal mines." And I said, "Sure, Granddad." I was just trying to focus on cleaning his boots off. Then he asked me to look at him again with much more of a firm voice. "Promise me you'll never work in these coal mines. You'll go to college and you'll get your education." And I promised him that. It was probably 12 or 13 years old. I'll never forget that. And, very humble beginning. So this is the home that my grandfather lived and grew up in. And I remember playing around this home when I was growing up. And we went back many, many years ago, took some pictures of it because I wanted to have it. So I never forgot where I came from. And just amazing journey. And you know, and then here, or if you go through, or some of the public housing, so I advanced, I moved from extreme poverty to public housing and the projects, if you will, of inner city, places where I spent a lot of time in Charleston, West Virginia, up to the left, and Detroit, Michigan, over to the right. Just, this was my upbringing. This was my growing environment, and learn mental toughness and how to stay on the right path, regardless of the environment you're in. Learn to have a broader vision for my life, despite the environment that I was in. And I was very, very insistent in not becoming a product of the environment. And then you see to the right, I just put here, this is kind of a testament. My grandfather has certainly since passed on. He saw me graduate from undergraduate school, which I've only saw him have tears twice in my life. Once is when my Uncle Paul, his son, only son, got killed in a car accident. I was around 13 when that happened. And he said to me, hey man, I would feel the same way if it was you. And then when I graduated from college, it was the second time I saw him with tears in his eyes, because I was his first grandchild to do that. And he passed away actually 1 month before I graduated from graduate school. So over to the right, you see, I have this in my home office right now. You can't see it from here, is when they tore down his house, you know, because it was just extreme poverty, and I was able to go there looking for things I could keep. And what I found was his actual coal miner's hat and his coal miner's lunch bucket. And so those became just priceless for me and a treasure. So I had them put into like a trophy case and put in my home office as a kind of a tribute to my grandfather, and something for me to always look at with pride, but also with a determination of keeping my commitment that I made to him many years ago. And then I tell you, a big thing that had a big part of my life was the love of the game in terms of basketball. You know, this is, my sister took this photo many years ago, and I was able to find it. This is where I learned to play the game in the inner city. We didn't have a court, so we created one on a telephone pole, and we played for hours all through the night. There was we put it under here because there was a street light, and this is where I learned to play the game. And this had a lot with keeping me on the straight and narrow because of my dreams of one day hopefully becoming a professional player or getting a scholarship and that type of thing. So it really played an instrumental role in my development and growth over my life. And I actually ended up becoming a pretty good player. I was an all-state high school basketball player. That's me many, many years ago. You know, don't laugh at the knee pads and the short shorts. That's what we wore back then. My son actually gets a chuckle out of this constantly. But I learned that competitive spirit and that winning spirit, you know, from this game that I was able to translate into my corporate life. And, but it was a big part of keeping me on the straight and narrow because I was always engaged in basketball, And I didn't want anything to become a part of that. You know, a pivotal life moment is I go through a pivotal life moment. I'm going to go through a couple pivotal life moments and share with you things that have happened in my life. And it starts with a bike. And so some friends of mine said, hey, we want you to go for, I was 12, maybe to age 12. And some friends of mine said, hey, we want you to go for a ride with us. And they got on a bunch of bikes and we drove out to this place. And they said they were picking up a bike. You know, what I didn't know at the time, you know, that they were still on a bike. So let's just walk through this story. So then we come back to our neighborhood and they put this bike in, they asked could they put this bike in the garage of my mother's home in the inner city of Detroit. And I said, oh yeah, sure. Didn't not know it was a stolen bike. I was really naive. I just wanted to hang out with my friends, right? And so then you look at this, the Detroit police. I was coming home one night and I saw this police car in front of my house with the lights flashing. And I did not know why it was in front of it. Then as I got closer to the house, I looked to the back and I could see the garage open with the lights on. And I said, oh boy, this doesn't look good. So needless to say, my mom, this is an actual picture of my mother, and let me show you this. She introduced me to this thing called the belt. And it wasn't to hold my pants up, if any of you have experienced this belt growing up. And I tell you, it's something I never forget. I think it was probably one of the worst whoopings I ever got, and the last one I ever got, because it really woke me up and she really got my attention. And then this is when I left Detroit, and she sent me to West Virginia to stay with my grandparents. I thought I was just going for the summer, but it was a trick. When the summer was over, I was ready to come back to Detroit. And that's when I was informed by my mother and my grandparents that I was going to stay. And, it was probably a pivotal moment in my life. Something my mother that I will always be grateful, because if I would have went back to Detroit, who knows how my life would have turned out. And so she really saved my life in many ways. So a pivotal moment in my life. Another pivotal moment in my life, and I'll share with you. This is a story. So I'm in my freshman year of college, and I had completed it. And I decided, though, I was going to take a year off of college because I wanted to work a year and get me a car. Everyone had a car but me. And I wanted to get a car, and I would go back to college. So I come home, so one day I meet on a Sunday, the guy I was driving back, going to ride back to school with, was picking me up from college. I told him to go ahead. I wasn't going to go back. My cousin had saw it, who, she had a role in helping to save my life as well. She saw, and she went back and told my grandparents. So I come home, there's my grandfather sitting where he sits on the porch. And he says, hey, I wouldn't go in the house if I were you. And I say, why? He said, because your grandmother is really, really upset. The fact that you made a decision that you're not going back to school. And so really very, so then I look, that will disappear. I look and she has my trunk. I don't know if you guys still do that today or not. My trunk that was on the porch with all of my clothes. I see that there. And you go on, and then I'm going to go on here. Okay, let me go back. So I'm going to go on here. You can't see. Hopefully you can see, or am I in the way here? I don't know if you can see over to the right here. Yeah, well, anyway, over to the right here, if you can see my picture of my grandmother. I don't know if you can see it.
We can see it.
You can see it? Okay. And so I just put all this here because it tells a story. And so my grandmother gives me a choice then. She says, I have two things and you have to make a choice tonight. You can't come back in the house. Here's everything you own in this trunk on the porch. I have a ticket for you to go back to Detroit with your mom on a Greyhound bus tonight, or I have hired these two gentlemen to take you back to college tonight. But I'm not going to be a part of you messing up your life. I'm not going to be a part of it. So you have to make a decision. And so I chose in this particular moment to go back to college. And if you can imagine, I'm 6'3" with a trunk, two guys, and we drove 2-3 hours, got back to school 1 o'clock in the morning with my legs practically hanging out the window because of this, we're in a Volkswagen. So another pivotal moment in my life. And, so I owe a lot of gratitude to both my mom and my grandmother for having a vision for me that I didn't have for myself. And so very grateful for that. And so another moment that I think about in a life, one of the proudest moments in my life was when I became a father. As I indicated earlier, I didn't have a father in my life. And I made up my mind that I was going to be the best father that I could be in my life. And I think my whole life up to this day, I've been running for Father of the Year, right? And you can see different pictures of me and my son over the years and my wife. And then right here, most recently, my son actually last weekend not this past weekend, the weekend before, got married to his college girlfriend. And now he's married, and that's my daughter-in-law. And so I've been running for Father of the Year every year, as I said, because I think the first time I held my son in my arms in the hospital, the first thing I said to him, I'll never forget it as long as I live, is I said that Dad's going to always be here for you, and I'll never leave you. And those are words I will never forget. And here's another thing that's been an output in my life, and I call it a promise kept. My mother told a story one day. She's cooking in the kitchen. She said, I'm about 13 years old, and I used to come in and sit down after being out playing basketball or being out while she was cooking. She said she remembers a time I told her, said, Mom, one of these days, I'm going to get you out of those projects. I showed you the places where we lived and where we grew up. I'm going to move you out of here. I'm age 13. I'm going to buy you your own home. And she said, I just said, yeah, okay. So, thank you, baby. That's very nice for you to say that. And I thought one day that I would be able to do that as relates to making it to the NBA and cashing in and being very wealthy and being able to move her out of these projects and the homes that we've grown up in. That's me playing ball in high school. That didn't come to realization, but I tell you, I was more determined because when I was in college, my mom was always talking about how she was afraid of being in the projects, listening to police cars and gunshots and things like that every day. I became more and more determined that I was going to keep this promise of moving her out of this public housing so she could be in a place where she's safe and secure. And I'll tell you, I was able to do that in December of 1994 because of my success in corporate America and all the things that came along with that. I was able to move my mom out of the public housing and move her into her own home. And, I would go back and visit and go look for property, and I would take her with me. She had no idea that me and my wife were looking for a property. She thought I was looking for investment property. She didn't know we were looking for property for her. And then we saw the one we liked and the one she got really excited about. And I came back into town, flew in town, closed on the home, and told her it was her home. And she actually literally passed out on the floor. And then I had to fly back out on work, and my cousins and brothers and everything moved her into her home. Because that was a very special day in my life of a promise kept. And she just moved out because she's getting older. And so now we're getting a home ready to sell it because she's moved in with my sister because she couldn't be alone anymore and, couldn't deal with the stairs and those type of things, but definitely a promise kept. So now as I will transition, that's a little bit about my upbringing and talk about some of the advice and lessons learned in career and leadership. That hopefully some things you'll never forget that will be helpful for you as you pursue your dreams in career or leadership and life period over time. First of all, you can't get there by yourself. You have to have great mentors. And some of these relationships will happen for you naturally over the course of your life, but they're invaluable, priceless. And I've had two mentors in my life that I would tell you I'm extremely grateful for. And these two people here on the left and right have just been so instrumental in my development and my career and my life for a very long time, for over 30 years. And they've helped me grow not only professionally, but personally and as a man and just personal development and both professional development. Two incredible men who are just very, very important people in my life and always will be until the end of time for all of us. And I can never repay them for what they've done for me and my development. They're still my mentors to this day. They will be the first two people I would call in any situation that I needed help and guidance with. And so some of the things they've taught me that I would like to share with you is one of the things they taught me and said, regardless of whatever field you pursue in your life, in your career, You need to know how a business makes money. You need to understand how a balance sheet works. Regardless if you're in human resources, regardless of what parts of the business or what paths you decide to take in your life, entrepreneurship, whatever it may be, you need to decide, you need to learn what a balance sheet is. Understand the income statements, the balance sheet, the cash flow statements. So I want to pass this along to you. So some things I've passed along to my son as he's gone through, graduated from undergraduate school at Virginia Tech, and he's got his MBA as well, and now is working. I've passed along all of these things to him over the years. You got to take an annual report and be able to go through an annual report and read the balance sheet of how that company is doing. The other thing that they've shared with me that I'll share with you is you got to continue to grow your impact. You can never get complacent. That over time, you have to continuously grow your performance level. You can never get complacent because the bar is always raising. So if the bar is raising, but your level of performance and your capability is regressing or staying the same, then it's going to catch up with you and others are going to pass you by. So you never can. The whole message in this illustration is over time, you got to continuously grow your skills, grow your capabilities, and grow your impact. Can't get complacent. The other thing is the same thing. Grow yourself. You got to stay relevant. This says over time that your capabilities, your skills, your experiences, your expertise are going to have to grow. It can't stay the same because everything around you is going to continue to grow. So you have to remain relevant. This is something that they've taught me, and therefore, it's still 30 years into my career, I'm still a continuous learner, always looking for ways I can learn, grow new things, and to expand my skills and my impact and understand where I have gaps and areas I need to develop. These are things you should keep with you throughout your career and your life, because if not, you will regress and others will proceed. Here's another thing I would pass on and that I learned from them, but kind of one of my favorite quotes and one of the things I live by is be a change agent. Always be looking for ways to how you can make a different impact, how you can do something better, how you can take it to the next level, not just doing the status quo, right? And this is about entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurs, I love the space, and we'll talk a little bit about this at the end, because they're so innovative and they're so disruptive. So listen to this quote from Henry Ford. He said, if I asked my customers what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse, right? So they asked for a faster horse. What did he do? He created the automobile industry. That's a thought that you should keep with you forever in terms of being innovative, having an innovative, creative mindset, and being a change agent as opposed to the status quo. I love this quote, and it's something that I've tried to live by throughout my life. Another one they often talked about with me is work ethic. Work ethic. You got to have the work ethic. No one's going to ever give you anything. As you talk about, if you saw what my upbringing has been and how I grew up and what I've been able to do, this has been a big role in it. And I love this quote from Thomas Edison, who really actually started GE back in the 1800s. And I think it's a timeless quote. He said, opportunity is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and looks like work. So I often say to myself, if you want it, you got to go for it. You have to put a plan into place. You got to put a strategy into place. You got to create a vision. Then you got to create an action plan. And that's why I have this quote at the end, which is one of my friends has a quote that he uses called be an actionaire. Some people talk about it, but they don't put a strategy and action plan in place. Be the person who puts the strategy and the action plan in place. I love this quote. The other words, you just stand around and talk about it. You got to go do the work. And I love this one. One of my mentors, one of the two mentors shared this with me over time, is having self-awareness. One of my mentors, you would put this picture, it's this actual chart. 30 years ago. He'd put this chart on the table, so let's talk about the man in the mirror. And he would say, Robert, you know, people that are self-confident have self-awareness. They know what their strengths are, but they also know the things that they need to work on to get better. People who are not self-confident, it's hard for them to talk about the things that they need to work on to get better because they're insecure and they're trying to hide them. And in some cases, they're looking in the mirror and they're putting on makeup. He said, but you're actually going to be much better if you're able to have the self-awareness to say, here's what I do good, here's what I do kind of average, and here are the things I really need to work on to achieve my goals, achieve my vision. Self-awareness is a big part of achieving your career goals and success in life. The other part we talked a lot about was the adversity being a part of the success journey, resilience, perseverance, focus. And you're going to face this in your life. You're going to face this in your professional life. You're going to face this in your personal life. Learning how to deal with adversity when you're in the eye of the storm and having the resilience and the perseverance to work through that is going to be a key part of it. I think the tagline on this page says it all. Adversity is a part of the success journey. It's a part of it. You can't escape it. You just got to embrace it, anticipate it, and get through it. The key part they talked a lot with me is helping others succeed by not just being successful, but being significant, gaining and giving back and helping others achieve their goals and dreams, which is something I've committed to throughout my career and life, and I will continue to do so. And there's just some tools that I developed, not to take you through them, what I've used to coach and mentor others throughout my career and life. And you can see the one over around self-awareness, how I teach people how to do that. But this is just a toolkit that I personally developed as I coach and mentor others in their career in terms of bringing that to life. Also, you know, giving back is being very involved in the community. And you can see a lot of different things here, you know, because in terms of I've come from, it's important for me to give back and help others achieve their goals and dreams just like I have. And so this is ingrained in what I do. You can see there at the bottom, one of the things I've done is me and my wife established scholarship programs for people back in the communities that we've grown up in to help them live their dreams. In my mother's name and then in my mother-in-law's name, we've established these scholarships about 6 years ago to help others achieve their goals. You know, it's amazing. I share with you how far I've come, and I share with you what my journey has been when I said journey to leadership, from which I've come and the challenges and adversity, and where I'm at today. You're talking about an organization that has over 200,000 employees in 59 countries around the world. And this kid that I showed you my starting or my beginnings, you can see where I'm at now in terms of the top 400 people of GE. It's been an unimaginable journey. And I say to you that, you know, you should make sure that you let no one tell you what you can achieve in your life. And if you have a vision and you work hard, you develop a strategy, you develop an action plan. The next chapter, since this is about entrepreneurship, I have 30 years into GE. So I'm actually thinking about what's next in my life. And I've been working on this plan for the last 5 or 6 years. And here are some things that I'm working on. Me and my son we've already started like our own venture investing fund and angel investment fund. There's some other things we're thinking about doing with this under Ram Capital, more to come on that. I'm writing a book. I just signed a contract a couple of weeks ago. I signed a contract for a book that I'm working on. We have a inspirational apparel company. I'm going to share some little promotional things with you in a second. That we have 800 products, and we hope to get this launched here soon. And gift business, there's kind of the packaging and the logo. And I've also written a screenplay that I hope to make my movie one day when I retire, because I'm 30 years in, so I'm getting ready to the next chapter. So I've not just done a corporate executive, entrepreneurship will be a big part of my next chapter, which I'm very excited about. And so I think next is maybe some short marketing videos, promotional videos for the apparel business. Let's see if they work here. So those are just some quick Instagram marketing videos that we have in our collections, part of our marketing strategy. I guess thank you for your time. I think we will, spend the last few minutes trying to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, I'll start off with a super quick question. What plant are you located at?
Right here in Cincinnati. I'm at our global headquarters, which is in Evendale.
Okay. Next question. We have a student asking, I see a lot of books behind you. Which books have been the most impactful to you most recommend/gifted?
Wow, that's very interesting. I do a lot of reading. Learning is so important. Wow, that's a good question. So I would say a couple. There's one book entitled Empower Yourself. It's really a book that really teaches you how the whole corporate world really works. There's the and the intangible aspects of it. It's a book that I really like, and just to read a few for you. There's another book that I like called Action Has No Season. Really, it's around the whole theory of being an actionnaire. And then I quite frankly really love the book of Nelson Mandela's book, and I've got to look at the title of it. His whole autobiography or biography of his journey as a leader. That's been very motivating for me, just to name some quick ones.
Next question. How did you select your mentors? Were they at GE as well?
Yes, they both were at GE. And, and I really didn't select them. It's very interesting. I was very fortunate that I think the best mentoring relationships happen naturally, as opposed to the formal programs. They just happen naturally. We just build the relationship. They saw something in me. I never ever asked one of them, will you be my mentor? We just developed a bond, and it just naturally grew and strengthened over time. I think those are the best mentoring relationships.
What character traits and skills do you think guided you to be so successful?
I think it's some of the ones I shared going through this, about learning how the business works. And I think learning how to communicate, to do presentations, all these things are important because you get exposure and visibility, and that can be really, really good for you if you do a really, really good job. I think being proactive in terms of being prepared and studying and mastering my craft, and developing a reputation and credibility around that. I think the work ethic is important, and accountability, being reliable, that people know they can count on you to get the job done. And then I think the other one is the ability to be able to connect and build relationships and rapport with all kinds of people all over the world, and improving that. And I shared that with you in a very illustrative fashion.
I know you talked about this a bunch, but there's a student that asked, what was the greatest adversity you faced, and what did you learn from it, and how did you overcome it?
The greatest adversity. Wow. I think though some of the early adversity was very, very tough. I don't think I could just point out the greatest adversity. It's been a lot of little things, even though you've seen all that success in my career, and I would say that's the case, but there's going to be tests because of what's going on in the business that's very, very challenging. For me, you think about the financial crisis. I was in GE Capital during a financial crisis, and I'm in GE Capital, and that the financial crisis was amazing. And so we were trying to protect the business and save the company. I was working, 15 hours a day, every day. And I had to do some really tough things and help the business get through that cycle. I mean, there were days I didn't think I was going to make it home at night at 11 o'clock at night, more or less get up in the next morning to go to work. But that faith and that resilience and that perseverance of not giving up and not quitting was a tough time. And then this moment in time where COVID-19 is decimating the aviation industry and helping us navigate through this in a very successful way. I was planning to retire, but I said, I can't do this now. I can't leave the team. We'll talk about that later. Those have been two really, really tough times in my life. Personally, I think the toughest times have been, to see things happen in my family. In recent times, I had a very tough upbringing, and the fact that I've made it out of that environment, I still have a lot of family members that are in that environment. And so I've had two of my nephews that have gone to prison, and my sister's kids, and one of them is still in prison. One got out of prison after 8 years, and because they didn't follow my path, they went the other way and took a hard path. And one got out and had his life on the right track, but probably didn't take care of his health like he should have. Prison, probably didn't know he had a problem with diabetes. And so suddenly, unexpectedly, 2 years ago, at the age of 34, he died. And so I had to go to his funeral, and I was very close to my nephew. Then I had a niece who my brother's daughter, got caught up in the wrong environment with the wrong type of people and had an estranged boyfriend. That was a year before my nephew died. And she got shot and killed by an estranged lover at 32 years old. So personally, those are the toughest things I've ever dealt with. And then at that same time, I had in that about a 3-year period, I had two aunts that who I was very close with passed away as well. So life is full of challenges and adversity.
Wow, I'm so sorry to hear that. Going off of that, when you're feeling defeated or unmotivated, what makes you come back from that and get back up and try harder?
Well, I try to always put things in perspective and in context. And I think you've all heard this from your parents or family members and others as well. But when you're young, you don't see it and you can't understand it. It comes back to you at some point where they try to prepare you for things that, that no one ever promised you a rose garden. Life's not going to be easy. Success is never going to be a straight line. There's going to be lots of turns and twists to success, right? You hear all these things when you're coming up, and you can probably think of similar things you've heard from your parents and others. It does come true at some point in time in your life when you're independent, you're out of college, you're in a whole different world now. The whole thing around responsibility and obligations and making good decisions, decision quality, all those things I talked to my son about it over the years are very, very critical. Decision quality, accountability, reliability, all of those things are so important because you're one decision away or that from going down a different path. So decision quality. So I would listen and take heed to all those things you hear from your parents and your teachers. It's all going to come true. You're going to face it. That's the way life was designed. There was a line designed for you to have a lot of trials and tribulations. And it's who gets through those in a very constructive, effective way are the ones that are very successful. So you got to develop that mindset of resilience and perseverance. No matter what comes your way, you're going to achieve your vision. You're going to achieve your goals.
Thank you, Robert. We're getting close to running out of time here, so I'm going to close us out. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to join us today. Thank you so much, Robert, for sharing your inspiring story with us. The recorded version of this session will be available soon. Students, we love hearing your feedback. Please continue to fill out the quick survey that pops up once you leave the meeting. Please join us at, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, just as you get ready to close, I just want to say to everyone listening, I wish you nothing but the best. And I hope this story has inspired you. You can live your dreams, whatever your dreams are, set that vision, put your strategy to play in place, put your action plan, and live your dreams.
Thanks so much. We have another webinar tomorrow at 12 p.m. Funding the Future, Investing in the Exponential Power of Exceptional Female Talent with Pete and Anu Dugal. So please join us at 12 tomorrow. Thank you again so much, Robert. I loved your presentation, and thank you all for joining today.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Take care.